there. Since that time, I've gone through, this is our fourth director now that I've had the privilege of working with, and I'm still as an emeritus member of the board, so I can't get rid of it because I like to go to the Bennion Center, and it keeps me in touch with the students in the university. Dean McGovern was hired last year as actually the fifth, I guess, executive director of the Bennion Center. He came to the University of Utah from Montana University, and he went to, I had this all written down and I left my notes along, so I tried to go over that from memory. His undergraduate work was at Colorado State. He got his bachelor's degree there, his master's and doctorate degree at Montana University. He was involved with the campus compact up there, which is a community service for college group of college people, and then was hired to come to the University of Utah. He has 5 children, and I think that he said in his resume that what he really likes to do to get his head together is to get out and run the mountains here in Salt Lake. So, well, thank you so much. You did pretty well for memory. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful for the invitation. And yeah, grateful for the invitation. It's so nice to meet so many lovely people here in Salt Lake City. I've been here about 7 months. As Lon mentioned, I started in August, and what I found is wherever I go, everyone knows the Bennion Center. How many of you have heard of Lowell Bennion Center? So I'm not even going to tell you anything you don't already know today. Hopefully, I can give you a little nugget, but it's just been so impressive to watch the enthusiasm around the center. And before I begin talking about the center, I want to introduce Mary Draper, who graciously enough came up to sit up here with us. She's our development officer, and she is my right-hand woman. She's just outstanding, and shows me around and leads me around quite a bit. So I'm really grateful to Mary and her work. I want to begin by, I thought Rick might mention this, but I found out the other day that yesterday Rotary celebrated 110th birthday. A friend of mine, a Rotarian in Chicago, mentioned it when I told him I was coming today. And he said, wish him a happy birthday. So you had mousse for dessert, but I brought a cake. And happy birthday, 110 years old. That's important because I begin to talk about the Bennion Center and what agenda is in the city on campus. Bennion Center and the Rotary Club share a real common purpose, and that is we believe, like you do, that service above self is critical. We try to teach that and instill that in everything we do. I want to begin today, before I get into what we do and how we do it, I want to talk a little bit about why we do what we do. And I'll start with me because I like to lead by example, and I don't want to put anyone on the spot. But I'll just start with me briefly. I grew up in Chicago, and I was fascinated as a little boy with the rail yards and Union Station and the commuter trains and all the trains going this way and that. And Chicago's, as you know, a unique position geographically in the United States. Almost everything by rail goes through Chicago, whether it's going east to west or west to east. And on the rare occasion that you get trains going north and south, those go through Chicago. So it's a really interesting spot. I was fascinated by trains. My dad commuted on trains. I use it as a metaphor now sometimes, and I think it's really profound for me because it meant so much to me as a little boy. Everyone's going somewhere, and when we recognize that, we can be helpful. When we search for what it is someone's looking for, whether it's a commuter in downtown Chicago or downtown Salt Lake, riding the tracks, you're trying to get somewhere. And maybe you're a hobo, and you're trying to get somewhere. You're looking for that train. And I think, for me, service, community engagement, and things like the Bennion Center and the Rotary Club provide that training. And I think if we can all be the train for someone else, that's inspiring for others, and we can lead by example that way. And add a purpose to our own lives. So that's kind of why I do it. Why do we do it collectively? I think we recognize that energy and intelligence might be widely dispersed across the planet in different populations, we know that opportunity and investment is not equally distributed. And we want to bridge that gap. We want to help. We want to do it by coming up with vaccines. We want to do it by lending a hand. We want to do it by reading a book to a child or mentoring a child. We want to bridge that gap of disparity. We also recognize as educators that deeply engaged learning is a great way to learn about a subject, another person, and even ourselves. Deeply engaged learning includes things like involving ourselves in community service in our courses, in our classrooms. And many of you knew Lowell Bennion and have become either friends, colleagues, or disciples of Lowell Bennion. And Lowell Bennion, because we know him, knew him, read his words, we follow in his footsteps, and we instinctively ask the question, how can we help? How can we be helpful to you in your career? How can we be helpful to you in your studies? How can we be helpful to you in your life? We instinctively ask that. And those are some of the reasons why we do what we do. Now, the University of Utah, I'm not going to read this to you, but the University of Utah, this is a paraphrased example of what we have as a mission statement at the University of Utah. And it explicitly and specifically includes community engagement. That we as faculty, staff, and students of the university have as our mission to engage with the community. We are not of ourselves and only unto ourselves up on the hill. We are charged with engaging with the community. We also take on a social responsibility to what we do and everything we do, whether it's building, whether it's classroom work, whether it's research, teaching, or service. We want the university to act as a good citizen in the community, and we want to be engaged. To that end, the wisdom of the community, several members, lovely benefactors, and the administration created this gem called Bennion Center. And I'm fortunate, I count my blessings every day to be able to go to work there, because it is just an absolutely fabulous place. In all we do, the Bennion Center wants to foster service and civic participation on a lifelong trajectory for everyone that comes in contact with us, whether that's a brand new student or someone that's been there a while, whether it's a physics major or an English major, a writer, an attorney, a fledgling physician, or a faculty member, or even an administrator. You'd want to engage them in the trajectory of lifelong service and civic participation. We recognize that there are several pathways to getting that work done. And I use this analogy in my classes a lot. Imagine, if you will, you're sitting out by the river, maybe the Georgia River, maybe Colorado, down by Moab. And some of us recognize that there are some babies coming down the river. These babies are too young to swim, and so we instinctively kick off our shoes, and some of us jump in and we start pulling these babies out. We get those babies out of the river. And others of us might remove our jackets and realize that there are too many babies, they're outnumbering us, so we're going to show those babies, some of them, we're going to get in and we're going to show them how to tread water and keep their heads above water so that they themselves can stay alive and stay healthy as long as they can. Still, others of us want to walk upstream and find out who the heck is getting these babies in the water. How are they getting them? We want to know the systematic policy, problems, the issues that are causing this problem downstream. And still others of us take out our notebooks on the bank and we figure out innovative strategies for solving this problem when we come across it again in the future. Our social entrepreneurs who will sketch out maybe inflatable floating devices that we can slip onto the arms of children that might keep them afloat, or some sort of flotation device or a ladder of sorts. some social entrepreneur who's going to create a business around solving this problem, around solving this issue. And the point I make to the students, and I'll make it to you today, is that all of those reactions, all of those actions that we might take are very, very important. We absolutely have to get babies out of the water immediately. We absolutely have to invest in education and teach them how to stay healthy and keep themselves alive and live fulfilling lives. We absolutely have to keep an eye on the policymakers and the decision makers and the issues and systemic challenges that we have that cause these problems. And we also need those social entrepreneurs to innovate and come up with new strategies for the future. And I think it's very, very important. And in all we do at the Bennion Center, we try to incorporate it. We don't tell a student how in which they should engage with the community. But if they have the fire and the motivation to engage in the community and solve a problem, that it doesn't matter much to us where along the continuum they want to put their energies and strengths. That we'll take them, we'll take their energy and their strength, and we'll give them leadership opportunities. So to that end, we have several programs and initiatives at the Bennion Center. Some of you might be familiar with them. I'll just run through a quick list, and then if you have any questions, I can take your questions. Our pride and joy is our student-directed programs. We have about 48 different projects and community partners around the city, around the valley, in which students lead these projects to solve a problem. They engage with young students, K-12, they engage with the homeless, they engage with some folks that are struggling with a disability of some sort. They engage in environmental projects, health and ability projects. They're all focused around issue areas. Some are international, around refugee issues. And these projects are all student-led. They design them, they interact with the community partners, they recruit their colleagues, their student colleagues, and recruit volunteers to get these projects done. They provide wonderful leadership opportunities and amazing benefits to the cadre of community partners that we have around the town. And that is our student-directed programs. We do a lot of community-engaged learning where we teach faculty how to integrate service into the course, into the classroom. Very, very important to know that these deeply engaged learning experiences can extend to the classroom. They don't have to be extracurricular where a student comes up and says, I want to volunteer, which is wonderful. But they can be part and parcel to the learning objectives of a course. And we don't want faculty to just add on a community service project and call it good. We want them to reflect. We want them to lead reflections with their students about what they felt about service, what we don't talk about when we talk about service. Are the students recognizing that when they go to the road home semester after semester and provide these critical services, are they asking the critical questions? Why does there continue to be a need for a road home? Is anyone walking upstream on that issue? We want them to think about those things in the class. And whether it be biology or philosophy or whatever course it is, we're very proud that the Bennion Center has sponsored over 220 community-engaged learning courses at the university across disciplines. And that's just been a fabulous boon. One of the highest number of community-engaged learning courses or service learning courses for a university of this size in the country. We also have a community-engaged scholars program where students are intensively brought through a curriculum and finished with an intensive service project at the end. And they are rewarded after doing this at least 2 years of being in the community-engaged scholars program, co-curricular with their major. They're rewarded with a distinction on their transcripts, where they're demarcated as a scholar, as a community-engaged scholar. And they receive a special cord at graduation. Our Utah Reads program, formerly called the America Reads program, is a fabulous exercise in bringing up the grades and the skills of our kids in our elementary school. This year, we have trained and recruited 110 tutors, literacy tutors, who fan out across the city to various elementary schools to help read and mentor children who aren't reading at grade level already. These schools are Title I schools where there's a population of children that are struggling or perhaps at risk. And our tutors come from the campus, spend their time, they'll take an individual student out of the classroom for 10, 15 minutes, maybe as long as a half an hour, give them individual attention, really help the teacher out. And then that student goes back in the classroom. They do that several times a week with these individual students, and we see results. Students, the young kids are improving their reading because of this individualized attention. I was very happy to see that the Rotary Club donates a book every week to Franklin Elementary School, one of our partners, because I'm hoping that that book gets used in this program. So that's our Utah Reads program. We have alternative breaks. We take students outside of the city to various places to engage in week-long intensive community service projects. These are all based around specific issues and various cities around the region. They go to various cities around the region. In 2 weeks, University of Utah students that have enrolled in our alternative breaks program will engage in 13 different trips to 12 different cities. There's an ecosystem restoration project going on in Arcata, California. We have a food justice project going on in Seattle. We have a animal advocacy project going on in Kanab, Utah, and a community health project going on in Vancouver, British Columbia, to just name a few. That's a sampling of the projects. We also do them in the fall as well. And just a fabulous experience. It's one, when we hear from students that return, it's one of the highlights of their college experience. They did something that meant something to someone else. It meant a profound amount to them personally, and it changed the trajectory perhaps of their career, their college career. Sometimes students come back and change their major. That program was honored last year as the 2014 Alternative Breaks Program of the Year across the United States. So we're really proud of that. I want to mention our Bennion Service House. If you haven't been there before, I invite you. We're having a dialogue even tonight, Service House Dialogue, to come by and have a listen. These are 12 exceptional students who live in a living, learning community at a lovely house that has been purchased for us by wonderful benefactors. Up in Officer Circle, the upper part of campus. And these students live there for a full academic year. They engage in their own service projects, and several times a year engage in these Tuesday night dinners where they invite fellow students from across campus to engage in these dialogues on the issue. And we're doing one tonight. It starts at 7 o'clock. And I invite you to come by the service house up on Officer Circle to listen to that. Awesome. There we go. About 6 times a year, we do Saturday service projects. And this is directly a brainchild of Lowell Bennion. He started the Saturday service projects back in the 80s, taking students on Saturday and staff to places around Salt Lake City to help out with various community issues. And those projects continue today. And we do them about 6 times a year. The kickoff is Legacy of Lowell in September. And they have close to 1,000 people, students, faculty, staff, and community members, come to Glendale Middle School, where we kind of headquarter the projects. And we span out into several different projects. Last year, we had 20 different projects on one single Saturday morning. We're doing that again this September. So hopefully you'll join us. We did one this past Saturday at Horizonte University, which was fantastic, great turnout. We did literacy project, creating literacy kits for young children. And we're doing one in April, which is Lon's beloved project, the Earth Day project, April 25th. We're doing a Saturday service project with various environmental projects around the city. So I'm going to invite you to that as well. Finally, we do a bunch of awards and recognition for people who do outstanding things. And we're very fortunate to have several endowments and lovely donors who provide financial assistance to students who might not otherwise be able to do as much community service as they want to. We know and we're very aware of the fact that some students have families, they have to work, they're being told by their course schedule, and community service is one of the things that slips off the priority list, even though it's in their heart. We want to be able to help those students to stay engaged and be involved and be part of some of these projects that we have. And in order to do that, we provide them some scholarships or some fellowships when they're deserving and if they're in need. We also instituted this past fall hope to become a tradition, the Utah Athletes in Service Award, which we presented on the field at the Utah Youth versus Oregon game. And two wonderful athletes received that award for its first year, and we hope to continue that every fall. We're going to start to widen the circle of influence that the Bennion Center has, and really recognize different student groups on campus and student athletes as one of those. So, in closing, I just want to point out that our students, I'm sure you've come in contact with many of them, and they're just fabulous to talk to, they're wonderful to meet, they're genuine through and through, and they make such an incredible impact through their generosity and their courage. And what I've noticed most, and what's most thrilling for me, is when they reach out, bend down, mentor a student, or plant a tree, or pull a weed, or build a bench, they seem to stand up and be a little bit taller. And the personal growth that we get to see at the Bennion Center is so impressive in our students that it makes it all worth it. And John Dewey, educational philosopher, said, education is not preparation for life, education is life itself. And I think those words are so profound at the Bennion Center because what we see is students not necessarily preparing for life in the future, they're getting things done right now. And it really is impressive. Thank you so much for your time. It was really great being here. If you have any questions, I'm happy.
Financially. Are we still?
Mary might be able to answer.
I'm sorry, I was jabbering.
Dean, repeat the question too.
The question was, at one time the Rotary Club was a significant contributor to the Bennion Center. Is the Rotary Club still on the system?
I don't think so.
Second, can I ask a follow-on?
Absolutely.
One of the reasons that the Rotary Club was supportive of the foundation, the origination of the Bennion Center, was to act as a bridge between community service as a Rotarian and learning community service at a university. And I'm curious how many members of this audience had an experience with the Bennion Center or something similar that then led them to community service commitment with Rotary?
Great question. Did everyone hear that? How many of you, when you were perhaps at the University of Utah, interfaced with the Bennion Center?
No, as a student.
As a student.
Not as a volunteer, but as a student.
As a student?
Too young.
This year, the Bennion Center is 28 years old. I counted 3.
On that issue, Bennion Center is 28 years old, which means there are alumni out there now that are in mid-career. And as we try to think of ways of increasing the membership of Rotary, it seems to me if we could get a database and find out who those alumni are that are living in Salt Lake, it would be a natural entree as we try to promote lifelong service to keep them involved with internalizing and expressing the service ethic.
Absolutely.
Can you repeat that too?
But in short, it's, I think John's talking about creating a pipeline for getting students involved while they're in school, and then perhaps that feeds a membership into Rotary and lifelong service and civic participation. And I might add, on the other end of that, we're noticing in higher ed, more and more students are coming out of high school expecting this stuff when they get to college. So we're really excited about that, and we're glad to meet them when they get to campus. Yeah, some of them do, and we try to take it. There's a need, and someone has a financial exigency or a financial emergency, or they just are strapped. We want them to be involved in our programs. We'll help them out, and that's where a lot of you and your families come in, because we can't do it without friends. Bennion House, we have it's basically treated like it's an elective, like a dormitory or a residence hall, but you have to apply to get in. You apply, you go through a committee, and you're selected to live there, and you're committed. It's a lot more than living in a regular residence hall. And if need be, we have scholarships for those students as well.
With the normal turnover of students every year, we lose 25%, 25% new. How do you manage the challenge of maintaining some of these programs over the long haul?
Great question, because we're going through that right now. Every spring is a scramble where we go through what we call leadership transitions. I mentioned the student-directed programs. Each one of those has a student leader. Usually, our program manager and assistant director, Gina Russo, does a good job of bringing someone up through the farm team, if you will, so that they're prepared to lead the following year. If that continues, we do okay. But if we lose two good leaders at a community partner site in 1 year, that can be devastating. The other thing is we know that community partners change and shift. Some have been working with us for years and decide they just don't need us anymore, or the nonprofit itself goes out of existence, or the partnership's just not working in some way. So that shifts as well. So it's not just the students leaving, it's a couple of different factors. So springtime's busy for us.
So are people required by the, I mean, how do you get your people involved? Were they required by the University of Utah to be involved in you? A lot of people or do you give a degree, or do you have a class, or what are the ways that?
It's a good question. It's a good question. We take all comers, to answer it as succinctly as possible. We do quite a bit of marketing and recruitment. We let students know it's available. We put out a call that there are needs in the community, and that we try to empower them to realize that they can be part of the solution. But not all that are asked come to call. So, we have to do recruitment. But what's amazing about the Bennion Center and its long history and strong history is that the students speak for these programs year after year, and they are the best marketing we can possibly have. Students come back, 200 students come back from alternative breaks, and within a few weeks, we're filled up for the next semester because they just had such a profound experience. And they led a project in another place, and they come back, and it's just life-changing. And some of them say, well, I was a business major, but now I'm going to be this. Or I was pre-law, now I'm going to be a business major. And they change, and it's just amazing. So the students help us recruit new students, and we have a pretty good marketing team that does that as well. I hope I got to your hope I answered it.
Are you familiar with Rotaract?
No, Rotaract.
So Rotaract is the Rotary affiliated college program.
Okay.
And so the follow-on question that now makes no sense. And that is, are you engaging with Rotaract through the Bennion Center?
The answer is no to that one, and I'm sorry I haven't heard about it, but I definitely look into
We need to get you connected to Rotaract.
Rotaract. Yes, sir.
You see a corresponding, same number of men and women responding to those needs and being engaged in the Bennion Center activities? And has there been a change over the 5 or 10 years? Do you see any trends?
That's interesting. I'm looking into that right now because one of the things when I came on in August, I was very curious about was, and I asked a lot of people this question, and I got a few different answers, but I'm starting to craft a demographic. I asked, what does a Bennion Center student look like? And I got some quizzical looks. But what I wanted to know is how old she is, what her major is, and how often she volunteers. And I use that pronoun very intentionally. It's definitely a her. She's definitely undergrad, and I'm not quite sure what her major is. But it's women, for the most part. But quite a few men, and we are on a mission to diversify.
What are your funding needs for the year? What can we do?
Oh,
What are your
nice of you to ask. Thank you. He asked, what are the funding needs and what can we do to help? As Mary is wont to say quite often, and I think it speaks to the amount of engagement with the Bennion Center, our center is very uniquely funded on campus. It's about a third funded from state funds. It's about a third funded from private gifts and donations. And we operate about a third of our operations comes from endowment gifts that are just accruing interest. Very unique. We have a very small state budget, and so we try to stretch that. And Mary does a great job of reaching out to the community and bringing in new friends and widening those circles. I'm getting new and up to speed on that. Our needs, we are busting at the seams, so I don't think it's going to happen in the next year or two, but I think that at some point soon we're going to need bigger space, whether it's adding on to what we have or finding something bigger. I think that we need to constantly keep honor and respect the wonderful staff that we have. We've been dedicated for many years and do a great job, so I want to make sure that they're compensated at a level that honors their work in the community. I think we want to make sure that our students have the opportunities to engage and that we have the money to help them do that when they're getting pulled into a part-time job or some other activity that takes them away from where they really want to engage. So those are some of the needs. I think the ways you can help is we can talk afterwards, and maybe I can get your cell phone. You can go to lunch. That's a way. Yeah.
They're also volunteering.
Absolutely. I mentioned a couple that if you were interested in engaging with students, the Service House Dialogue is tonight. That's going to be, I think it's going to be the last one of the semester. We also have these Saturday service projects, and I would really encourage you, if you haven't, if you're not doing it already, to either invite your family or your businesses to gather a group and come out on Saturday on one of these Saturday service projects and take on one of these projects for a few hours. It's great team building for you, and it's wonderful for the community, and it's great for the students to interact with professionals and different members of the community. It's just a terrific, it's a win-win-win, and so I would encourage that.
It sounds like the Bennion Center has gone through a lot of directors. How difficult is it to work with Lockridge's?
Lon's been great for me. He's been hard to get a hold of lately because he's been down in Palm Springs golfing, but now that he's back to ski, maybe we'll have more.